He says, call to the way of your Rabb with hikmah. Anyone know what hikmah means? Call it out. Here's a hint. Wisdom. Yeah, very good. Hikmah means what? Wisdom. My argument today is most of the time we talk about Islam without wisdom. And when we don't use wisdom, instead of bringing people closer to Islam, what do we end up doing? Pushing them further away from Islam. And the way you call people with wisdom, or you call people wisely, is you call people the way the Book of Allah calls people. But we, I would argue, do not use the method identified by the Book of Allah. We have our own methods, and these methods are highly unsuccessful. Actually, they're not even wise. They're very unwise ways of calling people to Islam. So I'm going to give you a small list of how we make that mistake. Not a long list. It's a small list and I'll go through it quickly. But as I go through it, I want you to think about the khutbahs you have heard, the lectures you have heard, the Islamic discussions that you have been a part of at the dinner table, or conversations you've had about Islam under any class, any course, anything you've learned, and see if you hear anything that reminds you of what you heard. The first kind of unwise way to call people is we talk about divisions. We talk about this group versus that group. This sheikh versus that sheikh. You know, this school of thought versus that school of thought. You said this, but that sheikh said that. You want to have a battle? You know? And then there are people who say they talk about Islam, but the only thing they talk about is how wrong the other guy is. They will have YouTube channels, Facebook pages, blogs. These people put a lot of effort into studying the mistakes of someone else. Get a life, dude. But anyway, that's what they do. They study, and they say, in this video, in minute number 87, dude, you listen for 87 minutes to wait for a mistake? That's amazing. I am impressed with the level of attention span you have. This brother said this, and astaghfirullah al-azim, this is why this brother is a fitna, and he is calling people to the hellfire, and da-da-da-da, and here's my blog to save the ummah from this guy. Does this sound familiar to you? People will benefit from someone, you'll be benefiting. I don't have to name any names. I don't care. I don't care. And this is not even about myself, because I honestly don't care. I really don't care. I read some of the comments under YouTube videos for entertainment. That's what I do. But you know, you'll have somebody who'll say, maybe you're benefiting. You're benefiting from someone. Maybe you're benefiting from Mufti Menk, who I love. He's so cool. You know, last time I was here, you guys remember Peace Conference? Some of you were there. I was hanging out with Mufti Menk. And I told Mufti Menk, before I tell you this, I tell you another story. This has happened to me twice now. I was in Atlanta, Georgia. I got out of the airport. A Senegalese woman looked at me and said, "Hey, Mufti Menk." And I said, "No." She goes, "I know you, Mufti Menk. You lie. I seen your videos." I was like, "No, I am not Mufti Menk." And she goes, No, you lie. Wallahi, you Mufti Menk." I was like, okay. I took out a picture of me and Mufti Menk. I was like, "That's Mufti Menk. And that's me." "Oh, you just look just like him." I was like, okay. All right. And the same thing happened in Duha. Brother comes up to me, "Mufti Menk, right?" And I was like, "Yes." But my favorite one happened at Dubai airport. "Brother Nouman Ali Khan?" That's a good one. Yes. So I was hanging out with Mufti Menk, and I said, "You know, Mufti, you know what we should do? I should wear your thobe, and you should wear my suit. And then we should do the lectures." And we were gonna do it, but there was no time left. So next time, I'm gonna disguise myself as Mufti Menk, and he will disguise himself as me. Talk about lack of wisdom, but yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Anyhow, coming back to the subject. Some of you, raise your hand if you benefited from Mufti Menk. Raise your hand. Okay, awesome. See, this is why we love this man. May Allah protect this man and his family. Somebody comes to you, "Yeah, you know, but he's got this mistake," or some people say that he's deviant, or some people say that he's not a good scholar, some people... Have you heard these conversations? Where do you get this some people business from? As we have this not the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's the sunnah of the Muslim community now. Anybody who will benefit people, you have to find something wrong with them. And let me guarantee you, I or anybody else who ever grabs a mic, there is something wrong with us because we're human beings. So if you're gonna look for a mistake, I will guarantee you, you will find it. Guaranteed, you will find mistakes because we're human beings. And if yours, he made a mistake. Well, yeah, he's a human being. You didn't accomplish anything. But you know what? We call this Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. What is wrong with you? This is not Amr bil anything. This is you have too much free time on your hands and you don't know how to do something positive. Do something good. Instead of doing research on the mistakes of someone, why don't you go help your mother cook? Why don't you clean your house? Have you ever smelled your socks? Go wash those instead. You know? Do something else with your life. Don't do this. You're not serving anything. That's the first kind of unwise conversation. And it takes so much energy away from the Muslims. So much of their energy is just spent on this rad of this one versus that one and that one versus this one. Come on, you know? And then the second kind of poisonous, I don't even call it wise conversations about Islam. These are poisonous conversations about Islam. The second kind of poisonous conversation about Islam is when people are judgmental. They want to judge you more than Allah will judge you. They let people know they're going to go burn in hellfire or this is haram, and you don't even know the discussion of the fuqaha. You know nothing. But you think it's haram, so you want to put your fatwa on the world. What qualifications do you have, homeboy? Where did you get this from? I want to tell you a fun conversation I had. One of my friends, Sheikh Abdul Nasir, some of you know him. Sheikh Abdul Nasir and I were at a dinner. And there were some people having dinner with us, and one brother had a very short beard. He had a very short beard. And the brother next to him had a long beard. And the brother with the short beard, at dinner, turned to the guy with the long beard and said, Akhi, your face, haram. You have to... And he's embarrassing this guy at a dinner table. And you know, when it comes to matters of fiqh, I don't open my mouth because I'm not a faqih. I'm not even a scholar. But Sheikh Abdul Nasir is actually a faqih. And he's sitting there listening to this guy. By the way, both of them are like 20 years old. Akhi, this is haram. In the hadith it says you have to grow your beard, etc., etc. And Sheikh Abdul Nasir, oh man, sometimes this guy, he's about to eat his barbecue, and he puts the thing down and he goes, brother, where's the hadith? And he goes, I think it's in Bukhari. I was like, yeah, which bab? Who's the rawi? Who narrated it? Who did he narrate it to? How was it understood by the Sahaba? How was it understood by the first generation? How was it understood by Imam Bukhari himself? What's the commentary on this hadith in Fathul Bari? What about the Maliki school? What did they comment about this hadith? What about the Shafi'i school? What did they comment about this? And the brother said, you're embarrassing me. Please don't embarrass me. And he said, yes, I'm embarrassing you because you're embarrassing him. You don't know, but you like to take things and just either make them halal or make them haram. You don't have the qualifications. There is a lot of conversation that goes into, before you say Allah forbade something, you have to be very careful. There's not a small thing. Tilka hududullah. This is the hudud of Allah. You don't just get to drop haram, haram. You don't get to do that. And you don't get to decide who's going to burn in hellfire and who's guided and who's misguided. The ayah that I'm reading to you today, towards the end, when we get to the end of the ayah, Inna rabbaka huwa a'lam biman dhalla an sabilih. Your Rabb, He knows who's misguided, not you. You don't get to decide that. But we love to judge people very quickly. As a matter of fact, we are so good at judging people, we judge people as soon as they walk into the masjid. We look at them, oh, short beard. We look at it, check the pants. Oh, yeah. So quick. We send people to nar. Most people we send to nar. This is a horrible, horrible thing to do. Horrible thing to do. Judging people. through Islam. The only one to judge is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our job is not to judge. Our position is not to judge. Then the third, and by the way, when somebody does something wrong, if you know it's absolutely wrong, you've done your research, you've done your homework, you know for sure that it's wrong, then you have to figure out a polite way of correcting it. And maybe you shouldn't be the one correcting it. Maybe somebody else should be the one correcting it. You have to use what? Wisdom. Wisdom. Sometimes you correcting someone will do more damage than good. If I try to correct my father, it's not going to go well. It's not a good idea. I should talk to my mom, and my mom will talk to my dad, and that way I won't get in trouble. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to use wisdom, and you don't take the direct approach every time. It'll do more damage than good. So the first kind of poisonous conversation is divisive. It creates divisions and talks about groups and people. The second kind of poisonous conversation is obsessed with judging people. The third kind of conversation, I kind of already alluded to it, is conversations about the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that are shallow, that are absolutely shallow. What do I mean? You know, if you hear a khutbah in which there are 30 ayat are quoted, 20 ahadith are quoted, ayah after ayah after ayah, hadith after hadith after hadith. How much time did you spend on each ayah? A few seconds, yes? And then you went straight to the next ayah. Then you went to the next ayah. Then you went to the next hadith. Then you went to the next ayah. How much time did you actually think about any one of those ayat? Very little. Very little. And you know what that is? That is not healthy. Every ayah of the Quran, every hadith of the Prophet ﷺ deserves attention. When you give me too much of that at the same time, I actually end up paying attention to none of it. To none of it. Allah complains in the Quran, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ not لِيَسْتَدِلُّوا بِآيَاتِهِ. He says لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ, so they can think deeply about His ayat. Hour and a half I plan to talk to you tonight. About how many ayat? About how many ayat, do you know? One ayah. Because it deserves attention. We need to think about it. So what happens is people will quote lots of ayat, but they won't go in depth in any one of them. Now when you don't understand something in depth, is there a chance that you're misunderstanding it? Absolutely. When you don't understand something in depth, there is a lot of room for misunderstanding. Because a shallow understanding can be very easily a problematic understanding. Let me tell you something else while I'm on this point. This might be a little bit harder to understand, but an important point. The most supreme thing that we have in Islam, the highest truth that we have in Islam is the Book of Allah.